Men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that he who deceives will always find someone who will let himself be deceived. The battlefield of manipulation is not fought with armies. It is fought with words that appear harmless, gestures that seem friendly, and masks that hide the dagger beneath. You walk into a room, and while you see people, a manipulator sees pawns, pieces already arranged on the chessboard. Their conquest is not declared, it is whispered into existence. Consider the colleague who offers feedback, framed as helpful but laced with poison. They do not strike openly, they undermine slowly, tilting perception so that you doubt your own footing. That is their war. Subtle erosion of your confidence until the ground beneath you is theirs. If you do not see the game, you become the game. Recognize that the throne of your mind is the prize they seek. Guard it as a sovereign guards a crown. The first tactic of the manipulator is framing. Words are weapons, but the deadliest blade is often the angle of presentation. Weak, I'm just trying to help. Strong, your idea is flawed. The difference is not truth, but strategy. By shaping how the thought enters, they tilt your response before you have spoken. Train yourself to hear framing. Strip away the tone, the mask, the feigned concern. Ask, what is being pushed into my throne room? The second tactic is false generosity, a compliment wrapped around a chain, a favor that breeds debt. Manipulators use apparent kindness as a shield to advance their position. Do not reject kindness, but do not mistake every hand extended as pure. Measure action against consistency. If the gift weakens you, it is not generosity, it is conquest. The third tactic is subtle positioning. In any room, someone may already be playing the board while others are unaware. A game exists. A manipulator thrives on the blind. Break this advantage by assuming every room is a chessboard. Do not sit as a pawn, stand as the player. Watch patterns, not words. Who interrupts? Who flatters? Who deflects responsibility? The moves reveal the strategist. Control begins with sight. When you see, you cannot be ruled. Keep your throne guarded, your board visible, your ear attuned, not to the sweetness of words, but the structure beneath them. The manipulator is not invincible. They rely on your blindness. Refuse blindness. Look with the sovereign eye and repeat, I will not be deceived. The throne of your life is your perception. Whoever controls how you see reality controls the crown itself. Manipulators understand this truth better than most. They do not storm your gates with open attacks. They slip into your court disguised as advisors, whispering interpretations before you can form your own. Once they plant the seed, the harvest belongs to them. Guarding your perception is not optional. It is the first line of sovereignty. Priming and framing are the manipulator's most common weapons. Priming occurs when exposure to one idea influences how you interpret the next. A single word, image, or phrase can tilt your judgment before facts even arrive. Framing goes further. It dictates the angle from which you view an issue. The facts may be identical, but the frame determines whether you see threat or opportunity, loyalty or betrayal. Weak. This might be risky. Strong. This is dangerous. The difference is not evidence, but framing. When you fail to recognize these tactics, you become the audience of another person's script. To resist, you must train yourself to pause and strip away the frame. Ask, what is the raw fact beneath the angle? Modern life bombards you with attempts to seize your perception. Consider the headline that screams outrage before you even read the article. The words are designed to implant an emotional verdict first, facts later. If you allow that verdict to stand uncontested, you have already surrendered the throne. The same principle operates in boardrooms, classrooms, and casual conversations. When someone begins with "clearly we all agree," They have attempted to prime your mind into consent before you speak. Recognize this and re-establish your position calmly. A micro example. If a colleague frames your caution as fear, you do not need to argue. You can answer with composure. I am not afraid. I am thorough. You do not fight emotion with emotion. You reclaim the frame with clarity. The throne is rarely stolen by force. It is taken when you allow another voice to sit closer to your ear than your own judgment. To defend your perception, slow the exchange. Refuse to react to the first phrasing you hear. Translate it into neutral terms before you decide. When someone tells you, "You always overthink," strip it to the core. They mean you are careful. When they claim, "No one else has a problem," hear it for what it is. Pressure to conform. Mastery of the throne of perception demands discipline. Do not yield to the first framing offered. Do not let headlines, gossip, or subtle wordplay decide the meaning of events before you examine them. Hear the counsel, but never abdicate judgment. A sovereign who defends perception defends everything that follows. Hold your throne with vigilance and repeat, "My perception is mine alone." Morning is the battlefield where the first move decides the war. Manipulators know this. They strike when your defenses are weakest, when your mind has not yet taken command of the day. At dawn, the gates of perception are unguarded, and if you do not seize the watchtower, someone else will. Cognitive science shows that the mind carries limited reserves of decision-making energy. Each choice consumes part of that reserve. This is why fatigue leads to careless judgment. In the morning, however, your judgment is not fatigued, it is unformed. The frame of the day is still soft, and whoever shapes it first sets its direction. If you wake and immediately surrender attention to another's words, images, or demands, you have already yielded the initiative. The manipulator does not need to fight you directly. They only need to step into the vacuum you left. Think of the notifications that clamor for you the moment you open your eyes. A headline crafted for outrage, a message demanding urgency, a feed designed to prime comparison and doubt. These are not harmless distractions. They are the modern equivalent of enemy scouts slipping past the gate at dawn. Each one anchors your perception before you have claimed it for yourself. The throne of the day is seized not in the middle of battle, but in the first 5 minutes of consciousness. Guard the gate with ritual. Do not allow your first glance to be toward a screen that belongs to someone else's agenda. Command your morning as a general commands the field. Breathe, stand tall, anchor your posture. This is not a ceremony. It is defense. Establish the first narrative of the day with your own words, not the manipulator's frame. Even a single declaration spoken aloud, "I command my focus," plants your flag on the field before enemies arrive. You will face attempts to bypass this guard. A colleague may challenge your boundaries by saying, "You never reply fast enough in the mornings." Do not argue or submit. Respond with calm authority. "I begin my work after I set my priorities. That is how I deliver results." You have not only defended your gate, you have shown others that the fortress cannot be entered by pressure. The morning is not a neutral space. It is the most strategic territory of the day. If you treat it lightly, you invite invasion. If you command it, you deny manipulators the easiest path into your mind. Rise each day, knowing the battle has already begun. Take the first move and hold the ground. Repeat to yourself, "At dawn I am sovereign." Noise is the ally of manipulation. A crowded room, rapid speech, constant interruptions. These are conditions where deceit hides easily. Stillness, by contrast, is the enemy of the manipulator. When you hold silence, you strip away the cover. In the quiet, details surface, movements become visible, and intent is revealed. Just as predators are exposed when the jungle goes still, manipulators cannot mask themselves when you refuse to fill the air with words. Psychology has long observed how silence sharpens perception. Micro-expressions, fleeting facial cues that appear for less than a second, often reveal concealed emotion. In constant noise, these signals pass unnoticed, but when you pause, when the exchange slows, the flicker of contempt or the flash of guilt has space to be seen. In negotiations, skilled operators use silence deliberately. They let the other party speak into the gap, exposing fears, over-explaining or contradicting themselves. What looks like patience is strategy. What feels like emptiness is a weapon. Modern life resists stillness. Meetings are filled with voices scrambling to dominate. Social platforms reward noise, not thought. Yet silence remains a decisive tool. Imagine a room where a manipulator tries to sway the group with false certainty. Instead of interrupting, you fall silent. The pause creates discomfort. Others begin to notice the gaps in the argument. The manipulator, pressured by quiet eyes, often reveals more than intended. Words that were calculated become rushed, and intent leaks through. By not reacting, you turn the weight of the room against them. A practical example. In a meeting, someone frames your caution as weakness to sway others. The instinct is to respond quickly, to reclaim the floor, resist that impulse, let silence hang, then answer with calm precision. What I am doing is evaluating the risk. You reveal steadiness while the manipulator has already shown aggression. The contrast catches them without you raising your voice. Stillness is not passivity. It is a form of reconnaissance. You are not retreating, you are observing. Hold the quiet until you see the cracks. Watch eyes shift. Notice changes in tone and hear the words chosen to fill the void. Manipulators thrive when you rush. They stumble when you wait. Treat silence as armor and sword. It protects you from being baited into careless speech, and it cuts through deception by forcing revelation. Do not confuse silence with surrender. It is a deliberate position of strength. Command your pauses. Make others reveal themselves before you move. In a world addicted to noise, the sovereign is the one who can hold stillness without fear. You see more, you concede less, and you decide from clarity rather than pressure. Remember this: silence exposes what noise conceals. A hidden dagger left in the dark soon multiplies into 10. Manipulators work in the same way. If you see the string they pull and do not cut it, they will only tighten the grip until your choices no longer belong to you. Detection is not the end of the battle, it is the first stroke. What matters most is the ruthless elimination of influence. A prince who hesitates to disarm a rival soon finds himself surrounded. One of the strongest weapons of manipulation is confirmation bias. People cling to what reinforces their emotions, and manipulators know this. They feed you the story you want to believe, using selective truths to anchor their hold. They appeal to loyalty, to nostalgia, to pride. The danger is not in their words alone, but in your own attachment to them. Recognize this: the hardest strings to cut are the ones tied to your heart. Yet, if you allow them to remain, you will defend your captor instead of your freedom. In the modern world, this danger often appears as toxic advice dressed in concern. The colleague who undermines your ambition while pretending to protect you from disappointment. The friend who warns you against risks only because your rise threatens their comfort. The relative who disguises envy as care. Their counsel is not given for your benefit, but for their control. The mask is politeness, but the motive is sabotage. You cannot debate such people into honesty. You must remove their influence with clarity. Picture a meeting where someone cloaks sabotage in soft words. They say, I only want what's best for you, while steering you away from the path that strengthens you. The easy reaction is anger, but anger reveals weakness. Instead, answer with composure. I appreciate the concern, but my decision stands. With one sentence, you cut the string. You neither justify nor explain. You reclaim the throne of choice without entering their game. Weak. Maybe you're right, but I'll try anyway. Strong. I've heard you, and I will proceed. The first invites more control. The second closes the gate. The principle is simple but merciless. Eliminate influence before it spreads. Remove the dagger before it multiplies. Do not let a whisper become a chain. Once you identify a manipulator, act decisively. Limit their access, refuse their frame, and deny them the satisfaction of explanation. Detachment is not cruelty. It is protection. A sovereign who keeps poisonous counsel near soon drinks poison himself. In war, leaving one hidden enemy behind the walls ensures ambush later. In life, leaving one manipulator unchallenged ensures sabotage later. The courage lies not in detection, but in severing ties without apology. Do not grant endless second chances to those who show consistent patterns of sabotage. Your boundaries are not up for negotiation. Remember, hesitation is the ally of the manipulator. They thrive when you delay, when you seek to soften, when you explain. The sovereign move is silence, clarity, and removal. You are not obligated to justify your defense. You are obligated only to keep the throne of your mind secure. Cut the string swiftly, and you will never be the puppet. Hold this mantra. Eliminate the dagger before it multiplies. Every mask hides a blade. Manipulators understand this truth better than most, and they master the art of disguise to disarm you before they strike. They appear as allies, confidants, or humble servants, but beneath the surface they sharpen their knives. To protect your throne, you must learn to pierce through fabrications and see the steel that lies behind the smile. Julius Caesar understood this theater well. Before taking Rome, he often wore the mask of humility, presenting himself as reluctant, even hesitant to accept power. That modesty was not weakness, it was camouflage. By appearing unthreatening, he lulled rivals into complacency. When the moment came, the blade beneath the mask revealed itself. History shows us that humility in politics is rarely pure. It is a calculated veil, often a trap. When you hear a man insist he does not seek power, examine carefully whether his actions reveal a hidden march toward it. Modern manipulators wear the same costume in digital form. Influencers claim to be relatable, to be just like you. Even as they build empires on curated deception, they laugh at staged flaws, confess controlled vulnerabilities, and present themselves as victims of the same struggles they secretly exploit. It is not authenticity they sell, but illusion. The more convincing the mask of relatability, the easier it is for them to slide products, ideologies, or narratives past your defenses. You believe the hand that feeds you is friendly until you realize it was feeding itself all along. The battlefield metaphor is clear. Every masked figure that approaches your gates must be treated as a potential assassin. Do not assume the role they play is the role they serve. The flatterer may cloak envy. The victim may cloak ambition. The moralist may cloak control. In every case, the mask hides intent. Remove it quickly, or you risk letting the enemy build a nest inside your walls. When confronted with such a figure, respond with calm authority, never anger. If a colleague cloaks sabotage in concern, I just don't want to see you fail. Do not quarrel. Acknowledge the words, strip the mask, and redirect the power. I appreciate the thought, but I will stand on my own judgment. You neither yield nor fight on their chosen ground. Instead, you expose the disguise by refusing to play along. This requires vigilance. Study the consistency between words and actions. Observe whether the humility displayed is mirrored by restraint when opportunity arises. Observe whether the claimed victimhood is followed by accountability or by endless demands. Observe whether the moralist who preaches discipline lives under the same law they impose. Masks crack under scrutiny. Your eye must be sharper than the paint they apply. The manipulator's weapon is not the mask itself, but your belief in it. When you accept it as truth, you hand them control. When you question it, the blade they conceal loses its surprise. The throne belongs not to the one who wears the most convincing disguise, but to the one who sees through all disguises. Command yourself to distrust surfaces. Test intentions before granting trust. Respect words but measure actions. Never be seduced by flattery, guilt, or moral superiority without evidence of integrity. The mask of command belongs to you, not to them. To wear it means leading without deception, ruling with clarity, and never hiding behind disguises. See the mask, find the blade. Naivety is the open gate through which every manipulator marches. You cannot defend your kingdom while leaving its walls unfortified. The assassin you must release is not aimed at others, but at the childlike innocence within you that refuses to see how ruthless the world can be. A prince who believes every oath is broken by betrayal will not survive his first war. To see clearly, you must execute the part of yourself that resists the truth. Psychology calls this resistance cognitive dissonance. When reality and belief collide, the mind clings to comfort. You tell yourself a friend would never exploit you, a colleague would not undermine you, or a partner would not twist your emotions. Yet history shows otherwise. People defend illusions because the alternative feels unbearable. The manipulator knows this weakness and counts on it. They hide daggers behind smiles, and when you sense the blade, you still whisper that it cannot be there. That hesitation costs you control. The assassin within must strike first, cutting away the comforting lie so you can face the raw terrain. Modern manipulators thrive in the fertile ground of kindness and empathy. They praise you for being generous, then exploit your reluctance to say no. They cloak demands in the language of need, forcing you to choose between self-preservation and guilt. They know your empathy can be turned into a leash. A colleague may insist you cover their tasks just this once. A friend may pressure you for favors with the claim that real loyalty is proven through sacrifice. These moves are not appeals to love, but strategies of power. Without the assassin's clarity, you will comply, and each concession will be noted as weakness. The cure is not to kill empathy, but to guard it with a blade. See the pattern and cut off the hand that tries to seize your goodwill. Before you slay enemies, you must slay the child within. The child believes promises without proof, forgives betrayals without consequence, and mistakes manipulation for care. This innocence is not evil, but it is deadly when left unchallenged. The assassin within does not destroy your humanity. It executes your gullibility. You can still show compassion, but it must be chosen, not coerced. You can still trust, but only after testing the steel of the other's word. You can still give, but only with boundaries that cannot be breached. In practice, this execution is silent. You do not need grand gestures. You need only a sharpened inner voice that cuts through the fog. Weak, I don't want to seem rude. Strong, I choose not to allow this. Weak, maybe I misunderstood. Strong, the pattern is clear. Weak, I owe them for caring. Strong, my worth is not payment for manipulation. Each swap is a precise strike of the blade, killing the reflex that once left you exposed. When someone attempts to draw you into a false obligation, respond not with anger, but with calm authority. If a colleague demands what is not yours to give, You need no debate. State your decision with composure, then end the discussion. The assassin acts without hesitation, not because it is cruel, but because hesitation feeds the enemy. Every throne stands only when the walls are guarded. To protect your sovereignty, the assassin within must rise. Naivety may beg for mercy, but mercy to illusion is betrayal to truth. Remember this: kill the weakness before it kills the throne. The wolf inside you is not a beast to be tamed, but a sentinel to be sharpened. Before logic gathers its files, instinct sounds the alarm. This is not superstition. Neuroscience shows that what you call a gut feeling is your brain processing patterns beneath awareness. Subtle changes in tone, body language, or timing are registered and compressed into a signal that says danger. That tension in your stomach is not weakness, it is intelligence whispered in an older dialect. Manipulators exploit those who silence the wolf, those who dismiss unease as paranoia. They prey on your desire to appear rational, polite, or forgiving. But in the field of power, hesitation is fatal. Your radar must not be muted, it must be refined. Consider how often you meet someone and feel a faint dissonance before any clear reason emerges. They smile, their words are polished, but something off-key plays beneath the surface. Later, evidence confirms what the wolf already knew. They spoke in half-truths, or they maneuvered others with subtle digs. That first unease was not error, it was survival instinct, yet most override it with self-doubt. Perhaps I'm imagining it, perhaps I'm being unfair. This self-doubt is the manipulator's shield. They rely on your refusal to trust the early signal. They thrive when you second-guess the very instrument that has protected human beings for centuries. The metaphor is clear. The wolf howls before the ambush. In the forest, silence falls, birds stop, and the body stiffens before the predator steps into view. So too in human interaction. The atmosphere shifts, and you feel it before you can name it. To ignore that is to disarm yourself in enemy territory. To trust it is to carry a blade that cuts through deception. Your task is not to unleash paranoia, but to treat instinct as reconnaissance. The wolf does not attack every shadow, it listens, it stalks, it alerts. When you sense unease, pause and observe. Do not lash out. Do not confess your doubt to the manipulator. Hold it like a dagger behind your back and let it guide your positioning. Practical mastery begins with 3 imperatives. First, respect the first signal. When unease rises, acknowledge it without debate. Second, seek confirming evidence quietly. Ask subtle questions. Watch how their story shifts. Note inconsistencies. Third, act with calm authority once patterns confirm suspicion. This is not aggression, it is strategic containment. For example, if someone subtly undermines you in a group by twisting your words, do not flare up or defend with desperation. Instead, respond with clarity and composure. That is not what I said. Let me restate it plainly. You neither surrender nor escalate. You expose the move without losing control. Language itself can be sharpened through instinct. Weak. I think something might be wrong here. Strong. Something is off, and I want to clarify. Weak. Maybe I misunderstood. Strong. Let's be precise so we are not misunderstood. These shifts train your voice to match the wolf's growl. Calm, direct, and undeniable. Manipulators sense hesitation as prey scent. What they cannot feed on is unshakable presence. You are not called to kill the wolf inside. You are called to feed it, train it, and let it guard the throne of your mind. Civilization teaches you to silence instinct, but Machiavelli would remind you that survival belongs to those who read the winds of fortune early. Your instincts are those winds. Ignore them, and you walk blind into the ambush. Honor them, and you move like a hunter among prey. Engrave this in your mind. The wolf within is my shield. Words reveal little, actions reveal everything. Machiavelli warned that a ruler must judge men by results, not by their promises. The same principle applies to detecting manipulators in your own life. They dress their speech in silk, but their moves on the board betray the truth. Words are smoke, while patterns of behavior are steel. If you want clarity, stop watching the mouth and start watching the board. Life is not a casual conversation. It is a chessboard where every piece moves with intention, whether conscious or concealed. A manipulator may speak like a friend, but if their consistent moves bring you closer to disadvantage while advancing their own position, the mask is already slipping. The pawn that advances is never just a pawn. It signals a plan, a long game, a hidden push toward the throne. To survive, you must become the strategist who reads the direction of the campaign, not the beauty of the speech that justifies it. Consider how often public figures declare loyalty to high ideals, only to reveal their priorities in policy, investment, or alliances. A leader may say they serve justice, but if they consistently enrich their circle while neglecting the vulnerable, the truth is visible. A company may plaster its brand with values of community, yet quietly exploit labor or damage the environment. The contradiction between words and moves is the very signature of manipulation. Train yourself to measure intent, not by declarations but by patterns repeated over time. This discipline extends into your personal life. If a colleague praises teamwork yet consistently shifts blame, the strategy is revealed. If a friend promises loyalty yet only appears when convenience aligns, the board tells the story. Do not confront every inconsistency with rage. Instead, adopt the calm of a commander. State the contradiction with composure. You say this, but you consistently do that. The manipulator may deny, but your power lies in refusing to judge by words alone. Your loyalty is to the evidence of moves. On the chessboard of life, every piece has a rhythm. A rook moves in straight lines. A bishop cuts diagonally. So too do people. Watch the rhythm. Does the person advance through control, guilt, or charm? Does their path always lead toward their benefit at your expense? Patterns cannot be disguised forever. A single move can be an error, but a consistent sequence is the intention. Recognize it early, and you will know where the campaign is heading before the banners are raised. Your task is simple. Track the board, not the speech. When in doubt, write the moves down. Over weeks or months, the patterns will reveal themselves in a way no speech can obscure. That which repeats exposes the true design. It is not paranoia to observe, it is discipline. The general who watches only the enemy's words will be deceived. The one who charts their movements will always be prepared. Do not let flattery cloud your judgment. Do not let promises soften your guard. A pawn that moves forward signals strategy, even when the king smiles behind it. The manipulator's words are air, their moves are stone. Anchor your judgment in the latter. Remember this, in every battle of life, your survival depends on reading the board, not the speech. Moves reveal truth. Words only conceal. Manipulators do not overpower you with force. They slip inside your guard with whispers. Suggestion is their sword, and your mind is the battlefield they seek to conquer. If you are untrained, every phrase, every advertisement, every crafted tone of voice becomes a seed planted in your soil. To resist, you must not merely hear differently. You must forge an iron ritual, a discipline so unshakable that no suggestion finds purchase. This is how you create armor. No whisper can pierce. Psychologists have shown how easily people anchor their judgments to the first number, word, or image offered to them. Present a high price first, and the second seems fair. present a false frame, and even skeptics measure truth against it unconsciously. Manipulators thrive on this bias. They know that if they can set the anchor, they already control half your thinking. Recognize the mechanism. The mind drifts toward the suggestion it hears first, not the one it later considers carefully. To resist, you must train yourself to pause before reacting, to strip every message of its frame and ask, who benefits if I believe this? Modern life is a parade of attempts to bend your will through suggestion. Advertising rarely sells the object, it sells you the feeling of inadequacy, then ties the cure to their brand. A bottle of sugar water becomes a symbol of belonging. A device becomes a mark of identity. Campaigns engineers desire not by logic, but by embedding images and slogans into your nervous system. They whisper that you are incomplete until you obey. The only defense is ritualized clarity. When you see an ad, call it what it is, persuasion, not truth. When you hear someone frame your choices as limited, ask what they gain by boxing you in. Break the spell by naming the tactic aloud, even silently in your own mind. Think of yourself as a blacksmith forging armor. Each ritual is a plate of steel. Daily reflection is the breastplate. Writing down your principles is the helmet. Practicing silence before agreeing is the shield. Each layer makes it harder to pierce. The manipulator's whisper grows softer against your iron. They still speak, they still gesture, but you stand unmoved. A forged will is not natural talent. It is deliberate practice, hammered in fire and cooled in discipline. Carry this into conflict. Imagine someone presses you with urgency. We need an answer right now. Instead of bending, you hold ground. You breathe, pause, and say calmly, I decide on my time. No raised voice, no aggression, just an immovable line. That single act reclaims sovereignty. They sought to set the tempo. You broke the rhythm. Suggestion relies on speed, but ritual grants you time. Your task is simple. Build daily practices that harden you against suggestions. Anchor yourself before others anchor you. Expose the trick before it lodges in your mind. Refuse urgency when it is imposed. This is the iron will ritual. Without it, you are clay in another's hands. With it, you are steel. Ritual is the forge where will become armor. Power is not only in the sword, it is in the eye that sees where the sword will fall before it moves. To be untouchable, you must learn to see all moves without showing your own gaze. Manipulators thrive on shadows, but the sovereign eye sits atop the tower, surveying the board. You are not prey hunted in the dark. You are the throne, immovable, surrounded by sightlines no deceiver can cross. History shows that vigilance is as vital as force. Queen Elizabeth I ruled in a time when betrayal lurked in every corner of her court. Her survival was not chance. It was the work of a vast network of spies who reported whispers before they became daggers. She understood that awareness is armor. Deception cannot pierce the ruler who sees it coming. You must adopt the same principle in your life. Do not wait to be blindsided. Extend your awareness, study the field, and let no move escape your watch. In our age, propaganda plays the role once filled by court intrigue. It does not strike with steel. It clouds the eye with endless narratives, selective truths, and voices demanding obedience. If you consume information passively, you surrender sovereignty to those who shape the flow. Independence of thought requires discipline. Verify sources before you trust them. Compare voices before you accept one. Hold your judgment until the dust settles. Every manipulator wants you to rush. The sovereign waits, and by waiting chooses with clarity. Imagine yourself standing in the tower above the battlefield. Every soldier moves, every banner shifts. But you are not among them. You see the formations before they clash. You see the weak flanks, the false retreats. the hidden reserves. The manipulator hides in fog, but the eye atop the tower penetrates the haze. This is your position when you train vigilance. You do not need to predict every outcome. You need only to notice the intent before it touches you. To notice is to deny them entry. Carry this stance into daily life. Suppose a colleague presses an idea with urgency, framing it as the only option. Instead of resisting with hostility, you pause and answer with calm weight. I will consider all angles before deciding. The message is clear. You cannot be boxed in. You cannot be rushed. They may argue, but their attempt to corner you collapses because your eye has already seen the move. Leadership is not loud refusal. It is quiet clarity that leaves no opening. The sovereign eye does not chase every rumor. It does not waste energy exposing every lie. It selects what matters, discards noise, and acts only when action shapes the outcome. This restraint is as vital as awareness. To be untouchable is not to know everything, but to know enough and remain unmoved by the rest. Your command is this: expand your awareness, control your intake of information, and maintain the vantage point of the tower. Never let urgency blind you. Never let noise scatter your judgment. To see clearly is to rule invisibly. The throne cannot be deceived when the eye sees all. Machiavelli wrote that men must be taken as they are, not as they wish to appear. This is the essence of the awakened eye, stripping away illusions, removing every disguise, and seeing the true lines of power beneath the costume of civility. It is not paranoia, it is perception sharpened to sovereignty. The world is a chessboard. Most walk across it as pawns, blind to the pattern, reacting to pushes they do not understand. But when you awaken the eye, you rise from the board and stand above it. You see not only the pieces, but the hands that move them. Manipulation ceases to be invisible, a compliment laced with control, a favor offered to bind you, a silence used to corner you, all become as obvious as pawns advancing two squares. Machiavelli insisted that rulers must judge by outcomes, not appearances, promises, smiles, reputations. These are masks. The eye does not fall for masks. It looks at results, at repeated patterns of action. A colleague who flatters yet never delivers is not loyal, no matter their charm. A partner who speaks of care but disregards boundaries reveals their truth in conduct, not words. See this, and the fog of deception clears. Modern life is a battlefield of information. Propaganda floods every channel, designed not merely to inform, but to shape perception. Algorithms are engineered to provoke outrage or envy. If you consume without awareness, you are played like a piece. The sovereign eye resists by cultivating informational independence. Read beyond headlines, seek primary sources, compare opposing views. Do not allow a single voice to dictate reality. This is how you cut through noise and reclaim sight. Imagine yourself as the king who climbs the tower at the edge of the board. From above, the movements of every piece are visible before the opponent commits. The rook that threatens your flank, the knight preparing its fork, the pawn inching toward promotion, you see them all in advance. Manipulators operate in shadows, counting on your blindness. But from the tower, shadows vanish. You are no longer hunted. You are the observer. In practice, this does not mean constant suspicion. It means measured vigilance. When someone pressures you with urgency, the eye asks, "Why now?" When someone offers a gift, the eye considers, "What debt will this create?" When someone grows angry at your boundary, the eye notes, "Their control depended on my compliance." Every whisper becomes a confession, every gesture an unintended revelation. There will be moments when others challenge this clarity. Someone may accuse you of being distant or cold because you do not fall into their traps, do not justify, and do not attack. State calmly, I see things as they are, not as they are presented. This is not cruelty. It is leadership. By refusing to be deceived, you show others that respect is the only currency that buys entry to your presence. Language is also part of sight. Weak, I hope this is okay. Strong, this is what I have decided. Weak, maybe we could try. Strong, this is the path forward. Weak, I don't want to upset you. Strong, this is my boundary. The I speaks in commands, not apologies. The shift is subtle but absolute. When your words carry sovereignty, manipulators find no leverage. The final form of the Machiavellian I is balance. You do not fear shadows, nor do you trust blindly. You do not obsess over every move, but you never let the board fade from view. You are watchful without being restless, detached without being numb. This is not a life of paranoia, but of presence. You see the game, you see the players, and you see yourself as the immovable throne around which the pieces revolve. Hold to this vision. Do not surrender it for comfort, approval, or illusion. The sovereign I is the shield against deceit, the sword against confusion, the throne upon which manipulation dies. Repeat the mantra and let it anchor you. I see before they strike. Sight is the final fortress of power. To see clearly is to rule yourself, and to rule yourself is to deny others the chance to rule you. Manipulators thrive in shadows, in blind corners, in the space where attention falters. But when your eye is sharpened, when your perception is disciplined, their tactics unravel before they even take shape. Vigilance is not paranoia. Paranoia is the fear of shadows. Vigilance is the command of light. One consumes you, the other frees you. When you walk into a room with your eye awake, you are not anxious, you are sovereign. You scan without strain, you read without effort, you hear beyond words. Freedom begins the moment you no longer accept appearances at face value. Modern life is saturated with attempts to bend perception, advertising engineered to exploit instinct, messages designed to push urgency, colleagues framing problems to benefit their position. To enter these spaces without vigilance is to walk onto a battlefield unarmed, but with the sovereign eye, you see through the fog. A co-worker says, "We should rush this, it's urgent." You answer calmly, "Urgency does not replace clarity." You cut the tactic without hostility, restoring control with a single sentence. The throne of the mind is won, not by force, but by sight. The manipulator's mask is their strongest weapon, and your vision is the blade that removes it. When you see, you cannot be deceived. When you discern, you cannot be steered. Each day is a chessboard, and the sovereign eye is the vantage point that reveals the entire game. You are no longer a pawn, reacting to sudden moves. You are the one who sees the pattern, anticipates the strike, and chooses your position with intention. Now take the oath. Declare it within yourself with the weight of iron. I will never walk blind into another's trap. I will sharpen my eye until manipulation is powerless against me. I will treat vigilance as freedom, not fear. In every interaction, in every decision, I will stand as the one who sees. This is the oath of the sovereign eye. Say it and hold it. It is not perfection you vow, but discipline. It is not suspicion you embrace, but clarity. And with this clarity, you rise above the games of those who seek to move you like a piece upon their board. I see, therefore I cannot be ruled.